But as months go by, you're just like, okay, all right, time for ovulation, pants down, let's go, let's do this. And it sucks the fun out of it, right? It just feels like a chore. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Coffee and Taboo, the podcast where we spill the beans on topics that we're too afraid to talk about. I'm your host, Chandni. Get cozy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's dive right in. Episode 2. First of all, I really want to thank everybody who has tuned in, whether you were listening on Spotify or watching it on YouTube. I really, really want to thank you all for your support. It really means a lot to me. People did reach out, sharing their story and sharing their journey, and honestly, it's all I could ever ask for. That was the whole goal of me starting this podcast, is just to get the conversation going. And so thank you for those of you who have reached out to me and we were able to chat, and my door is always open. That's really what this podcast is meant for. So thank you again. I really appreciate the continued support, and hopefully we can keep this going for future episodes. This episode, we're going to focus on the emotional roller coaster and the often unspoken anxieties that come with when you're trying to conceive. So last episode, we did talk about my IVF journey, but we didn't get to talk about how we got there. You know, you're trying to conceive and you believe it's going to be this happy chapter. You know, it's a beginning of a new relationship. You're diving in with this person trying to have a baby. And like I said in my last episode, it's a part of your DNA and my DNA, and we're making it together. So it's exciting, right? And you think it's going to be super simple. What is so complicated about it? There's a man, there's a woman, you have sex, you have a baby. That's it. That's what we were always taught, right? When we were in sex education in high school, what did they teach us? They constantly said, wear protection, take birth control because you're gonna get pregnant. You're gonna get pregnant. You're gonna get pregnant. And that has been engraved in our heads for so long. But the reality is, it's not so simple. For whoever is going through difficulty, you understand this, that it's really not that simple. I want to take the time to just explain a little bit about how conception works in case you're not familiar with, which is totally okay. But essentially how it works is that a woman needs to be ovulating. What does ovulation mean? It means that she releases an egg once a month, 2 weeks before her period. So a woman's cycle on average is about 28 to 30 days. From the last day of the period to the first day of the period. That's a cycle. Depending on the length of your actual menstrual cycle, maybe after the first 7 to 14 days is when your body is getting ready to release an egg from its ovaries. So it will release one egg. When that egg is out, it doesn't stay in the body for long. So that's the ideal time to have sex and for the sperm to come and fertilize the egg. Now, if you really think about it, there's a million sperm and there's one egg. What are the chances of those sperm actually fertilizing the egg? It's quite low. I think they say it's about 25% of a chance. So back in the days when we were in high school, being told that you're going to get pregnant instantly, it's not really accurate. I can understand why, of course. Nobody wants a teenage pregnancy, and that's the whole point of sex education. But as you get older, you think that it's a lot easier. You think that, oh, you know what? We can just have sex anytime and we're going to get pregnant easily. Because if you are a woman of reproductive age and you have a normal menstrual cycle, you don't have any other issues, you expect things to just kind of happen naturally and easy. But that's really not the case. When we were going through our journey, because I have a nursing background, I'm very scientific with everything. I'm very detail oriented when it comes to the body. Obviously, I did my research. I did my Google search, which is the worst thing, and I will never recommend it to anybody. And it really took me down a rabbit hole. Just understanding more and more about how the female body works. I became obsessive with tracking everything from A to Z. I was tracking my temperature because when you're ovulating, your temperature goes up. I was tracking the ovulation hormone, the luteinizing hormone. So you basically have to pee in a cup, you put in a test strip, and you test to see what the levels are. And you can subscribe to apps. They have free apps, they have paid apps. I did it all, okay? I paid for the apps, I paid for the test strips. I did expensive tests just to really like pin it down, because after the first, I would say 3 months, I was getting frustrated. I remember those early days, the obsessive tracking. You wake up in the morning, you have to take the test of your first pee, you're waiting for the result to see, okay, is your luteinizing hormone rising? Once it rises, okay, that's time, that's the peak time that you have to have sex. It really felt like my whole life was revolved around this whole conception aspect. It took over my mental health, my marriage. You're doing all this work and you're really hoping you're going to be successful, but then what do you have to do? Once your ovulation is over, now you have to wait 2 weeks. It's called the 2-week wait to see if you get your period or if you're going to not have a period and hopefully be pregnant. And it became very isolating because you feel like you're part of this like secret club of conceiving and you're just not allowed in. Like you have to wait for an invitation to get in, and it's super hard to get in, especially when you're surrounded by successful pregnancy stories. It's frustrating because it seemed to have worked easily for them. And the worst is when people start to give you advice about how you should try to conceive. Try Mucinex. It's going to help thin the mucus within you, and it's going to be easier for the sperm to get inside. Some people have told me eat certain foods because that's going to help with your body temperature and create better eggs. And then there's the typical, after having sex, put your legs up in the air for like half an hour because that's going to help the sperm go down. Scientifically, let me just tell you, that is a myth. As if you want to believe it, you want to do it, go right ahead. But scientifically, it's not proven that that works, because sperm's goal in the end is to fertilize an egg. That's part of their DNA. So they're going to be moving their way forward to the egg. So you don't need to put your legs up in the air. And then what happens? You finish that 2-week wait. You're super anxious. You're constantly symptom checking everything that you're feeling because you think that it might be the month, and you might think that this is a different symptom than I felt the last month, so it has to be it. It has to be that time that I'm pregnant. Then what happens? You start to spot, oh, is that implantation bleeding? Is that my period? And then you take the dreaded pregnancy test. It's of course negative. Then you feel this like sinking feeling, that wave of disappointment over you. And it's not just the physical aspect about it, it's really like an emotional toll. You feel like a failure. You feel like your body has failed you, especially because sometimes your body responds to stress differently. So the symptoms that you might have every month might be different. PMS symptoms. Personally, for myself, I'll maybe like a sweet tooth a week before. I will start to have backache and cramps a few days before my period. But I remember one specific month that I was so positive that I was pregnant. And I felt so different. The headache, the nausea, I was starting to have morning sickness that came out of nowhere. My boobs were hurting. I really thought I was pregnant. And so I had told my husband, and he said, you know what, let's just wait to take a test, because it had been a couple of months now at this time that we were disappointed. And lo and behold, obviously it was negative. I remembered that moment that I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what? You failed me. You fucking failed me. My body, you have failed me. I try to treat you right. I try to supplement you with the things that you need. I try to fuel you. And this is the payback that I get. You trick me into thinking that I'm pregnant and then I'm actually not. What is the deal? Like, what is the fucking deal with this shit? You lose all sense of control. You lose control of the way you think, the way you feel, and it's extremely stressful. There's a whole roller coaster of emotions that come with it, especially when you are faced with that negative test months and months on repeat. It's the disappointment, it's the anxiety, it's fear that maybe it'll never happen to you. And there is this constant pressure of people just saying, okay, just relax, that's when it's going to happen, as if you can like switch off your emotions or switch them on. It's not that easy. I know people mean well, but it can be very dismissive of the real emotional turmoil that you're experiencing. And then there's the envy, like seeing pregnancy announcements on social media, baby showers, the adorable little onesies in the store, the little baby blankets, everything. And it's not that you don't want to be happy for others. You remind yourself that it's something that you just don't have. And it's hard to navigate those feelings without feeling guilty. I think as I reflect more and more on why I was feeling that way, it wasn't as much as the person being successful, but it was more me mourning the fact that this other person's life now is about to change. It's going to change completely. And that means that my position in their life is not going to be the same. And as much as, you try to be close with your friends, things change, right? When you have kids, like it's inevitable. It's a fact. It's going to happen. Your priorities change. Your own habits change. And that was a lot of mourning that I had myself. It starts to also take a toll on your marriage, because what ends up happening, you get into this cycle of trying to conceive. And so at first it might be fun because it's the beginning. You put more effort into it. But as months go by, you're just like, okay, all right, time for ovulation, pants down, let's go, let's do this. And it sucks the fun out of it, right? It just feels like a chore. I remember having these discussions with my husband and telling him, okay, let's go. Like I'm positive now. We only have 24 or maybe 48 hours before the egg descends and it just goes away. He would just tell me like, I'm not a machine. You can't just switch, It was putting a lot of pressure on him, and it was really unfair. And I didn't see that, because I was like, well, don't you want this? It took me to realize that, in those situations, I didn't realize that he was going through his own turmoils. I didn't realize that he was going through his own highs and lows. That every time that I came crying to him saying that I'm not pregnant, he was just trying to be strong for me, but I didn't see the tears that he may have shed. I didn't see the pain that he was going through in his own. He probably felt like he couldn't fix it. He couldn't take my pain away. Once these things happen over and over and over again, it's the communication, or the lack of communication, because you start to just withdraw yourself. You start to withdraw yourself from everything because you don't know what to do at this point. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand. You just want answers, and you're kind of looking for something to blame. And more than anything, you just want to blame yourself because you think that you're the problem. There's something wrong with you, and that's why it's not working. I remember when we were close to a year of trying, and I was thinking to myself that, you know what, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe it's just not going to happen. And I was really withdrawing myself. I wasn't seeing my friends. I had taken some time off of work. I was kind of avoiding family. And even with my husband, we were fighting a lot more, and stupid fights, really. Like, I was just constantly irritated. He was irritated. And it felt like our communication was really lacking. And so trying to not make things worse, we would end up just going silent on each other and just keeping our distance from each other. And that did take a toll on our marriage, because it made us grow apart, because you don't realize that it's your journey together. In that moment in time, you don't feel like you're a team. You feel like it's one person against the other, when really you're a team who's just trying to get over this thing. But it's so hard sometimes because you feel completely alone. And I think my husband and I tried to focus more on doing things together and, solidifying our marriage again, because we started to realize that, all we have is each other. And it's part of the package deal. You don't just give up because things get hard. You have to keep going. You have to talk it out. And I'm glad we did. It was important for us to understand what it means to be together and not talk about having a baby. Because before we started doing IVF, it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm fed up. I don't want to talk about having a baby. Let's focus on ourselves. And I just felt like we were so focused on having a baby that we forgot about each other. So we took a vacation. We went to an all-inclusive in Mexico, and it was so much fun. It was amazing because it was just me and him, no external factors, nothing. You're just focused on each other and bring back that intimacy. Just simple things, talking about each other's goals and where we see ourselves in 5 years, 10 years from now. And it brought back also physical touch, holding each other's hand, hugging, like the small things that you forget when you're in this process of trying to conceive and you're doing it like it's a chore. All this to say that it's, I think, important to remember that even though you're going through this difficult challenge, it's important to remember each other, and it's important to remember how that other person is feeling. It's not just about yourself. It's both of you together on this journey. You just need to create a safe space. It's going to be stressful for sure, but give yourself each other the grace and the time that you need to kind of back away and just collect your thoughts and then regroup and focus on what you can do better the next time or what you can avoid the next time. And what I've learned, and it's taken me a very long time, is that it's okay to not be okay, because this journey that you're on, it's really messy and there's a lot of complicated emotions in it. It's okay to cry, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to feel lost, but it's really important to have your support from your partner. But even more than that, what I would suggest is just talking to a therapist or joining some kind of group that's going through the same things as you, because otherwise it can feel very alienating. Therapy is something that will help you in the long run. It's always going to help you. It's unbiased, non-judgmental. You really get to say how you feel and get ways on how to deal with those emotions. As I was going through this journey, I found that it's really important to find your anchor. What brings you joy? What brings you true happiness? There's got to be something, and that's what you have to bring your focus back to, because that's going to help you get through this journey. And if you are going through this, please know you're not alone. Obviously, I'm going through this as well. And it should be talked about. We should support each other, listen to each other, give yourself grace, and just take your time, and everything will be okay in the end. You just have to be okay with the uncomfortable. And once you nail that, honestly, there's nothing that you can't handle. Absolutely nothing at all. I really want to share this today because I think it's important to talk about the unseen side of conception. There's a lot of emotional factors to it. It's not just, the girl who's facing it. There's also the partner who's going to be facing it. And it's a multitude of emotions. There's smiles, there's cries, there's anger, there's fear. You have to just acknowledge the challenges and those fears and just know that you are going to get through it. There's hope that comes with it, and you have to keep that hope up. As much as you might be disappointed, just keep going. Keep going, because it's going to happen. It definitely will. One way or another, it's going to happen for you. So I just want to end this with saying that, if anybody who's going through with this, you're not alone. Like I said, I'm experiencing it also. Please, again, like, comment, share, and subscribe to my Spotify account, my channel, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. I'm on all the socials. But yeah, take care, everybody, and see you in the next episode. Bye.